Finovate showcases cutting-edge banking and financial technology through a global conference series featuring short-form demos and thought leadership. Now, the conversation continues on the Finovate podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Finovate podcast. We've got a fun one for you today. We are going to be previewing Finovate Europe, which is coming up in London at the end of February 27th and 28th in the Intercontinental Hotel. And joining me today, we have Julie Muhn, Finovate's resident analyst, one of them, I should say, who's going to be talking about some of the big themes and takeaways that we can expect. Julie, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, Greg, thanks so much for having me. I think last time we were together, we were talking about deepfakes on the podcast, which are interestingly still relevant. So it's good to be back.
Yeah, that was good. That's some evergreen content there. Go back into the deep dive through the Finovate podcast archives and find that one. Still, I think, as relevant, maybe not as relevant, but obviously not something that has gone away. And this is really what we're trying to find today. What are the big themes from this year, from Finovate Europe specifically, and from later on in 2024 that we'll still be talking about in another couple of years? Before we get there, though, for anybody who hasn't met you or hasn't read any of your writing on the Finovate blog, can you give just a little bit of background on yourself and your perspective?
Of course, yeah. So I've been with Finovate for almost 13 years now, and my job is to read news in fintech and banking. So I kind of keep my finger on the pulse of what is going on in the industry and then distill down that information, write about it on the Finovate blog. We'll post updates on LinkedIn. I'll also host webinars and contribute to e-magazines and occasionally help out with content at events like Finovate Europe.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. And I would encourage anybody who hasn't already done so to subscribe to the blog and check out the new weekly LinkedIn newsletters that we're putting out as well. A lot of good stuff. But let's talk about Finovate Europe specifically right now. So when you're looking at the agenda and thinking about all of the great content and innovations that will be on stage, what are you most excited about at this point?
Yeah, there are definitely a handful of things. So looking at the agenda, you can definitely tell there's a wide range of content, which is good because fintech is a fairly broad category. But as with everybody, I'm definitely eager to listen to the sessions on generative AI, or as a lot of people call that, Gen AI. And kind of hearing about filtering out the hype of what's going on, what's really going on in Gen AI, who's really using it, what is actually possible. And that also, following up with traditional AI as well and seeing what use cases are available and in use with traditional AI as well. So there's one thing. On the DeFi side, I am very curious to hear from Jillian Godsell from Cointelegraph. She's going to be talking about the potential of a crypto spring, which we have been seeing green shoots in that area, since last fall. So kind of curious to hear her take on if crypto is going to come back around, especially in Europe. I think there's more potential there. So that'll be a fun one. And then, there's the last one here that I'll highlight is the buy versus build conversation, which, bankers and fintechs have been having since early 2000s. Collaboration in an open banking environment, and red flags for regulators, and looking also at the threats of big tech companies and seeing how that all plays into the partnership environment, the current partnership environment. Aside from those main three themes, there were three notable sessions that I wanted to highlight too. And just looking at the content. So you have one, actually, I want to hear your take on this, the Finovate game show, the Hot or Not game show. I'm really excited to see that one come to play.
Yeah, no, I'm pumped about it too.
Yeah, it looks like you have a lot of good people playing the game.
Yeah, absolutely. We do. It's going to be a really fun one. It's going to be very lighthearted. I mean, it is a game in that there will be points awarded. Although I'll tell everybody listening right now, I'm going to be the only one who awards points, and I'm going to do it in a fairly haphazard manner to try keeping it from getting too competitive up there. I think we do have some competitive folks who are going to be taking part, but it's basically it's a simple idea. What's hot and what's not in the space of financial technology. And we've pulled together a group of people who all have wide networks and who are going to be kind of representing their different networks in terms of whether they're hearing a lot of buzz about a specific topic or not. So it's not necessarily going to be whether the people on stage agree that something is quote unquote good or bad, but it's really just, is it still something that we're paying attention to as an industry? So we'll have a bunch of different ones. We'll have rotating teams, so they won't be always arguing the same side of things. And I'm excited to see what we get. It's going to be a new one for us. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love that too because it really showcases everybody has a different perspective on what is hot. And I think that'll really showcase a range of different perspectives. So that'll be a good one. And then also there's the Analyst All Stars and Investor All Stars, which I always love watching those because it kind of gives you that on the ground perspective and a little bit more of a deep dive into not only what investors are investing in, but also just what the analysts are seeing. And you get some good stats there as well. So that is the content I'm excited about.
Yeah, I agree with you on the analyst and the investor all stars. I think one of the things that's interesting, they obviously both have, to some extent, bird's eye views of the industry, but they have very different perspectives. And so the combination of those two perspectives, getting them to talk about what they're seeing is also, I think, really valuable. I always enjoy those and learn a lot as well. We haven't talked at all yet about the demoing companies. Obviously, that's going to be a really crucial piece of what Finovate Europe is all about. We've got a good lineup of 36 companies. Are there any kind of high level themes or kind of big trends that you're seeing in the demo roster?
Yeah, I've been picking that apart over the past few days. Obviously, demos are what Finovate is known for. So this is kind of my favorite part of the show. Just getting that look at what the new companies are working on and seeing that on stage. So there's lots of diversity in the demo roster right now. I think there are 36 companies demoing, and of that, we have 15 countries represented, which is really impressive. Also, another stat is 90% of those companies are demoing at Finovate for the first time. And 75% of those are either debuting their new company or debuting a new technology. So there's, lots of new stuff on stage. That'll be really exciting to see. As far as themes go and trends, I was picking that apart as well. And the top theme, which I'm not surprised to see as the top theme, is security, fraud, risk authentication, and compliance. There are around 7 demo companies that will be showcasing a solution that fits into that general category there, which isn't surprising because we've seen so much increased activity around regulators and regulation and talk of regulation and new compliance efforts and things like that. So that will be interesting to see, the new technology to help banks out, to help fintechs out, and make sure they're staying on top of those regulations. The second largest category that I saw was wealth management and investing. And we saw there should be 6 companies. There will be 6 companies that are demoing wealth management and investing tools on stage. So that'll be a good one to see. And that, again, that's not a surprise. I feel like anytime there's a lot of money involved, like investing, wealth management, we generally see a lot of investing companies. So that's no surprise there. The next 2 top ones, there was a tie between payments and digital banking, which honestly, I was surprised to see only 4 in the payments category. I was looking at a chart yesterday, actually, and it showed payments as the top fintech category for VC funding last year. So it seems like, if VCs are investing in anything, a lot of them are payments companies. So that was kind of surprising. I mean, I feel like payments are always relevant. And then digital banking, that's a really broad category. But so we have 4 digital banking technologies that'll be demoed on stage. Other than that, we'll have, some lending. There are a couple sustainability plays, a couple of customer experience ones. There's one life insurance play. And surprisingly, there was only one company demoing a Gen AI solution. Now, that's not to say that we'll only see generative AI once on stage, but this is a pure play Gen AI solution for banks and fintechs. I was happy to see mortgage tech on stage. I love mortgage tech. And then one financial education, which I was really happy to see that. I'm a huge proponent of financial education. So I'm really eager to see that demo as well. So lots of great diversity there, lots of great content there for sure.
Yeah, it's going to be a really fun lineup. I've been working with some of them on the coaching standpoint, getting them ready for the show, and I'm starting to hear their pitches coming together, which is always a really satisfying part of the event because you really get a sense of how unique and how different all these companies are. And so, there's certainly some areas that have consistently been problem areas for fintech. You continue to see people innovating in the security space, and you continue to see people innovating in the payment space. These are areas that people have been targeting for a long time now, but clearly there's still more work to do. I always like to see the new technologies show up on stage as well. I like to see people talking about Gen AI. And of course, there's a really direct link between the generative AI capabilities and a lot of the anti fraud and anti identity theft solutions that people are working on as well. As the capabilities of AI have grown, we need to consistently have more complex fraud solutions. So there's a lot of work to be done in that area. And just want to highlight one more time, 15 different countries. That's really cool. This is going to be a pan-European event and beyond. I think the farthest company who will be traveling will be coming from Taiwan all the way up to London, which is going to be really excellent to see. So, one of the things that I think is also really fun about Finovate Europe, it comes very early in the year. And in many ways, it kind of kickstarts the year, at least for us. I know for a lot of the attendees who come in, it's a setter. It helps people get their year going and kind of establishes some of the early trends. You can think of it almost as a springboard for the rest of the year. When you're looking at the agenda and looking at all the content, what do you think will be some of the continuing themes for all of us in fintech that are going to extend well beyond Finovate Europe and continue through the rest of 2024?
The easy answer there would be Gen AI, but I'm not going to use that easy answer because that's just too obvious that we're going to see Gen AI just pulse throughout this year, which is great. Like you said, it has, can be used across fintech, a huge number of use cases, a huge diversity there. But what I will say is that top category of the demo companies, so that security, fraud, risk, authentication, compliance, anything to help banks and fintech stay one step ahead of the regulators and make sure that they don't have any redlining issues or that they're not misstepping at all when it comes to compliance, helping them get their systems in place and things like that. Last year, I think the regulators were, for lack of a better word, embarrassed by some of the things that happened in the US for sure. Just bringing to light some of the issues that can happen with bank failures and things like that. And then also on the DeFi side with crypto, I think that scared a lot of regulators as well. So they are now heads down trying to figure all of that out and quick to make examples out of banks for sure. And with the increased number of partnerships that we've been seeing, embedded finance solutions and banking as a service, I think there is more risk for sure when banks are leveraging third parties. And so regulators are eager to make sure that banks aren't becoming lax when it comes to ensuring the compliance of their third parties as well. So I think we'll see more of that. It's a notable increase because it's kind of been the ugly stepchild of fintech for a while, just because it's not exciting, it's not fun to demo, but it's so important. And I think we'll see more of that. And I think people are learning how to talk about it in a more exciting way. And I also think that people, especially banks' interests are more piqued for that topic as well.
Yeah, well, certainly going to be a very busy year for the regulators on all sides of the Atlantic and beyond. It's a lot of activity is happening right now. There are hints that there are going to be more regulations coming into various ecosystems, that it's going to be something that all the banks and fintechs are going to have to figure out how to deal with. But it's nice to see it. I agree with you that it's something which is really important. And I think from my standpoint, being able to bring regulators and some of the technology companies into the same rooms is intensely valuable because they rarely talk to each other. And so the more that everybody on both sides of the equation can get together and really build a path forward together, I think it's just more productive in the long run. So it'll be really interesting to see what shakes out as a result of all of these cool new pieces coming in and where new pain points are established. There's always opportunity for new companies to come in. Every time a new regulation gets passed, somebody can come in and help make that process easier, smoother. So I think we'll see some of that coming up next year and beyond. I want to end with a question that's a little bit more frivolous. As most people who come to Finovate know, we ask our audience members to vote for best of show among the demoing companies. Now, one of the crucial pieces is it's entirely audience voted. Finovate staff do not get to vote, which means that neither Julie or I have ever voted for anybody for best of show. But Julie, if you did get to vote, how would you do it? What are you looking for when you kind of think to yourself, oh, those are the coolest companies? That's who I would cast one of my votes for.
Yeah, I have kind of a mixed approach here. So I follow a little bit of an 80-20 rule when I look at those companies on stage because I make an effort to watch every single demo from start to finish. And I'd say it's 80% of the technology, the value there, the potential for change that the technology has, and then 20% of, for lack of a better word, performance. I think there are so many cool technologies that could be on stage or that are on stage that, the demoer is a little bit more shy, but the technology is so cool that it almost outshines the demoer. That said, I have, seen some demos of really cool technology where the speaker has been less than impressive. So that can cancel out a vote for sure. The other part of my mixed approach, I think I have a severe bias of certain technologies, which I know that everybody does. Everybody's job has different technologies that apply to it. And I have a bias towards payments technologies, mortgage tech, and financial education, as I mentioned before. That's just where my interests lie. So if it's anything along the lines of those, I feel like I'm more likely to get to upvote those as well.
Yeah,
what about you? I'm curious to hear what's your process, your internal process?
Well, I think for me, it's a little different because so many times, I work with the companies ahead of time. So I get to see what their technologies look like. And there are many cases in which, I'll be working with a company and get a really good sense of what their technology is. And I fall in love with the technology. And then the way they deliver it up on stage is not the way that they had planned on doing it. And sometimes, to your point, they can undercut a good solution with performance that isn't exactly what they wanted it to be. And so for me, maybe I put slightly more weight onto the actual delivery of the demo. And being able to kind of clearly articulate where the value proposition is. And I think this is one of those areas where I put a lot of faith. If you up there on stage can't tell me in 15 seconds why I should care about your technology, even if it's really cool technology, I'm going to struggle to make a connection with you and to get really excited by it. So now that said, I tend to be on the lookout, similar types of things too. I love to see the new stuff. I like to see people pushing boundaries or trying things that haven't been tried before. I'm probably going to be more forgiving for some of the ideas that are maybe, interesting theoretical concepts without as much of a real world solution. I think maybe a lot of us in the fintech space who followed it for a while are sort of susceptible to that. We love to see cool new ideas, regardless of whether they're going to end up coming into the marketplace. So yeah, that's me though. And obviously in my role as demo coach, I would place more emphasis on actually delivering a good demo.
Yeah.
But I also have a soft spot for financial education as well. I think it's a really crucial piece. Both of us have kids. We want our kids to be financially savvy adults. And more education is just so necessary to see that happen. So always fun to see that. But yeah, that's about it for me. So and again, it doesn't matter. We don't get to vote. So it's all it's all immaterial. But it is fun to think about. And of course, I would encourage anybody listening here, if you haven't already booked your ticket, make sure you join us in London for Finovate Europe. Again, it's February 27th and 28th. We will be returning to the US for Finovate Spring in San Francisco, May 21st through the 23rd. And then Finovate Fall is the next one, New York, September 9th through the 11th. A great slate of shows coming up this year. We'll continue to keep you updated on new themes as they emerge. And Julie, thanks as always for taking the time. It's always fun to get your perspective as somebody who is so closely in tune with what the industry is doing and thinking.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This was great.
The Finovate podcast is produced by Informa Connect in association with Provoke.fm Media. Check out Finovate.com for information on Finovate's upcoming shows and to learn how you can get involved. The discount code Finovate Podcast will save you 20% on tickets to all of our events. And you can email us at info@finovate.com for information on sponsoring, speaking, or demoing. Thanks for listening.